much for the last 30 years I've done glass work and furniture. I have a master's in ceramics, I have a bachelor's in ceramics. I've taught clay for almost 30 years. After 30 years of teaching clay, the same thing over and over and over. I started evolving and incorporating more things into the clay realm. So pretty much I developed the clay department. I started an interdisciplinary program for about 10 years, which brought in people from all over everywhere because we could work in any medium. It still was three-dimensional. But I had people working in every area. And then that evolved into a furniture program, one-of-a-kind furniture. So the last 15 years, I've been the head of the furniture area. I retired about almost 3 years ago now. So I started teaching in 1973 at the College for Creative Studies in Detroit. Anyway, my experiences in clay, I started at Murray State University in Kentucky, 2 years there, then switched to Southern Illinois University at Carbondale, majoring in ceramics there. So the first 3 years were spent exclusively doing wheel work. So it's pretty much every day in the studio, 6 to 8 hours a day. Back then, there was no socializing in Kentucky. Women had hours, they had dorms at 10 on weekdays and midnight. You couldn't have parties that weren't school sanctioned. So the only time you met anybody was working in the studio. So everybody spent a lot of time in the studio. So it was great for a foundation. That's all you did was work. And I went to Southern Illinois, which was complete opposite. I was the only undergrad thrown in with 11 grad students. And my first semester there, all I did was make big pots. And it didn't get great response because they were perfectly geometric design kinds of things, because that's all I know. From an engineering background. I never had art classes until I got to college. And so I wasn't having much fun, and being 18 years old, you kind of want to have fun. And not getting good response was not very nice either. You're going, well, that's really nice, but I didn't know what to do. And I looked around. I was lucky to be in a place where the ceramic department had half the grad students were doing clay, and the other half were conceptual artists. They were coming up with things in their head. They would have shows, and we did all kinds of interesting things. So I watched these people have fun because they got up in here, as opposed to just making. And the things they made were interesting. My first semester, I sat down with my instructor and another grad student, and I go, I don't know what to do. So, they set me on a wheel, I made just little pieces, one after the other, just throwing, and they would start assembling things. And I'd never seen anything like that. I didn't know how that happened. I didn't know what to do. But as I saw them do it, they didn't care. They were just sticking stuff together. I like that attitude. And clay is really nice because you can sit and, when I was learning how to throw, every other one was, off to the side because it didn't work. So clay for me was the perfect place to play. said many times that if I had an art school, the first two classes you would take would be photography and clay. Photography teaches you composition and all these parts so you can put them together. Clay teaches you make things fast, make a whole lot, who cares? So you have a great attitude about if it doesn't work, fine, I'll make another one. So it boosts your ego in a way that you go, well, if it doesn't work, I'm good enough to make another one. So that's a real positive kind of thing, that you have confidence because your experience of making that it doesn't work, I'll do something else, I'll keep going. So anyway, that evolved. There was a woman doing body casting there at the time. She was doing these figurative pieces. And I go, that's kind of interesting. And so she taught me, first was doing the face castings, and then more, not full bodies, but body parts. And that was the start of, for me, what was going to be the rest of my life, was the direction. The figure has always been important to me. And I tried to figure out how I could use the figure in a way that is coming from me, not the other stuff that I've seen, just bodies. It's not very interesting. So, I guess we can start with this. This is one of the first pieces I did after, these people were throwing stuff, sticking together. Well, that was one of the things that I did. Just this kind of wind-up toy thing. I don't know what it does. This stuff, I guess, extrudes out of it. It's kind of a poop machine, I guess. I don't know. But it was a kind of, I was just starting to develop ideas. Then you go to the next one. That same time, I started doing bag forms, which is carried on for a long time. So this one of the bag pieces I did was only about this big. But you can see the first one I was using salt firing and acrylic paint. This one has a black flocking, so I was into any kind of surfaces. I wasn't stuck with glaze as paint. I'm not a painter, so I don't care if it's not, you're not going to drink out of it or eat off of it. For me, you can do anything you want. I've carried that attitude for the rest of the time. So I experiment with any kind of material I could find that had some way to decorate the clay. Go to the next one. So a little fancier flocking, that photo stuff on Christmas cards. Figured out how to do that. Gold luster, used a lot of lusters. So while I was developing this, I was developing a range of finishing. Now this is, luster is a clay thing, but the flocking wasn't. So I'll go on, it's soft and then hard, and it's kind of a nice kind of feeling. This bag thing. You see here, I'm stuck.
When you say a bag thing, what do you mean by that?
This is a bag, like a purse.
Oh.
That has this thing emerging from it.
So it's not.
I can I'll talk for a second about what I discovered through working was that almost everything I've done has to do with containing of energy. So on the containing of energy, you can change the energy up. You can change the amount of containment up. So within that general parameters, you have a lot of room to move. So some things are about complete containment, some things are about kind of, is it coming out, is it going in, is it protected, is it harming it, or some things are escaping. And that came from a personal experience that I had when I was 4 years old. I was in the hospital for tonsils. Something about my blood wasn't coagulating right or something. So they had me down on a gurney, and every hour they'd come and take blood. after about the third time, I didn't like that so much. I kicked the doctor. And he wasn't happy about that. So he wrapped me up in a sheet with an arm hanging out.
Oh my goodness.
It took me 20 years to go get in a sleeping bag. But that bad experience led to this positive experience of containing and holding. And then, see, I can look at almost every piece I've done since then, even the glass work. Inside the glass parts is this energy that's being held in by the glass. Or the tables I've done have a fractured, broken part, so this energy is escaping from the pieces. So that's your experiences, which we'll talk about in here. Bad or good, whatever sticks in your head, maybe not consciously to start, but after a while, if you keep looking at what you're doing, you'll find some kind of thing that keeps coming up. And here I talk about intuition, that most of us work intuitively until it doesn't work. And then you don't know what to do because you've not been in a place where you've learned how to go beyond your intuition, how to break down what you're doing into the parts, and how to analyze those parts, plus understanding what your approach is and how to keep that within the bounds of what you're working in. So after intuition, you need to understand basic design principles, break the pieces down, or have somebody break them down. That's what I did for students. When they were starting off, I could go, well, here's all your parts. Are they all going in the same direction? And how can we make that part work better in the communication? So anyway, that's in there. Let's go to the next one. Again, these are, yes, they're cups. They're kind of phallic form.
Very
and
phallic.
contained. The lid does come off. I don't know if they weren't made for drinking out of. I don't know if they hold water, but again, the bag form here. But again, this containment of this form. So I have probably 10 to 15 of these. I'm showing you like 25 pieces out of 20 years worth of work. So just, and I work in series. Because I want to see the series evolve. So I can go, that works, that doesn't quite work. And then hopefully, usually the first one's really good, and the last one's really good. But the first one is just your energy coming out. There's no thoughts so much, but it is this kind of thing. Just feels right. That's my intuition. The last one is understanding what I'm doing. Breaking the thing down, going, those, out of these 20, I like that part, and I like that part, and that part. I'm going to put them all together now into this one piece, and I'm done. So there's usually beginning and ends to the series.
How many pieces do you usually do in a series?
10 to 20. Even in the glass work, probably 15 to 20 coffee tables, 15 to 20 side tables, 20 chairs. I like to work within that kind of realm. Again, I think that's the clay background. 5 isn't going to do it.
What do you do with the ones that you don't like?
Well, I don't say I don't like them. I don't think they're. I only have like 4 pieces in my life I really think that's the one. The rest of them are okay. Yeah, I've sold pretty much everything.
So you make, during your series,
Yeah.
you make 15, 20 pieces,
Yeah.
and you come together with your design because of what you visualize. But there'd be some that
They never, if they're that far off, then they never make it. I don't show them. But usually, I have, well, the more I've done, the more I understand. Early on, you know, half of these things, they'd be in clay, which is basic learning experience. Just pitch things, put them back in, break them up. My early glasswork was like, I go to my mom's house and I go, oh, give me the hand. But you can't tell people that your son is, you know, a professor and that's his work. No. So most of the stuff just went away. But by the time I got into glass, it was like most glass people were clay people. The first person that did glass in the United States was Harvey Littleton in Wisconsin. He was the first one to do art glass. Everything else came from Italy or Spain or wherever. It was all, you know, mass production, nice stuff, but it wasn't the art part. Even when they did all the fancy horses and chandeliers and stuff, I mean, that's nice, but it was decorative. So he was the head of ceramics, and he went and studied glass, and he came back, and his ceramic students, after them, started doing glass under him, and then they went out into the world. And I was lucky enough at Southern Illinois to get somebody who had studied under him and had his own glass shop. So I'd always been interested in it. But in Michigan, I tried to figure out a way to do it. In 2 years, you don't have enough time to build the stuff. I built a salt kiln out in John Stevenson's place. So I was always into building. But glass and throwing on a wheel and blowing glass are pretty much the same forms. So if you're lucky enough to be a potter, you don't have to spend, you know, half your time trying to figure out what you're doing on the end of the blowpipe. You know kind of what works. So there's a natural evolution for those two things. So I can blow glass, but I'm not a glass blower. I did. A friend of mine and I started the Renaissance Festival glass demos out there for the first 12 years, and after that we decided that was enough. So he still has a glass shop in Detroit, but my glass evolved into casting glass. Anyway, let's go to the next one.
That is the next one.
Oh, okay, go to the next one. This is another version.
No.
So this was the first time I used, I'm a mold maker, woodworker. I use jigs. I make more jigs than I make pieces because I like the engineering of figuring out how to make something so it can be reproduced over and over and over. So I don't have to remake the thing at that point. Molds for clay are the same way. I use molds from the very beginning. But this was a straight baby doll face I stuck in here. So I only did that a few times, and it wasn't, well, that's just a baby doll face stuck in there. Then I learned how to distort the faces, and then I will see in the later work. So this is, you know, this is, I don't know, so this is kind of, that's clay.
Yeah.
Extruding
It's shrinking.
This was really probably the first body cast parts. This was back before there were. This was an inflatable female. So you got the little. There's a little valve core stem attached to there, and it's all these different body parts. On the back is the butt, and there's the rest of the front, and feet and toes, and on the head and the nose. And then numbers. There's always kind of numbers. I have a series of. There's always got to be a whole bunch more somewhere. So this was when I started getting serious. These are. This is my first. It says Portabod. So that's where I started. The face here isn't distorted, it's my face. My face, my hands, my feet. But it's wrapped up. And my initials are MD, so that gave me a hint. And I sold a lot of these to doctors. Because it was it's like a parts bag that they could take. So I probably have made 20 to 25 in this style of different things. And this was undergrad, and then my first semester in grad student, I did a lot of body bags.
What about the bowl behind it?
No, this ought to show at the DIA.
Oh.
So it's the only photograph that I have other ones with their. But these are off of old slides because back then everything was slides and I didn't have the knowledge to take a good picture. So a lot of these I had to use in Photoshop so you could actually see the things. So.
Did you use glaze on that, or how did you finish it?
These are all, well, some of them have a little luster on parts. These are all iron wash and then high fired reduction. And then where this part is, I use shoe polish.
Oh.
So it has that leather feel. Doesn't look like leather. Back then people were making clay look like everything. And I go, nah. And I like the clay quality because clay quality kind of looks like leather, but it wasn't necessarily imitating leather, but it was the idea of something you could wrap around and carry. So that's why the shoe polish for me was a nice in between kind of thing. Next, another styler's feet in the back of this one. Facing the other way.
Yeah.
So it depends on which way, the head and the feet should be in the same direction, as somebody's.
So this is all harking back to your little boy when you were wrapped up?
This is all the wrapping. This was the first kind of really conscious of bodies being wrapped up and held. It's not, these to me are negative. I did some that were a lot more negative, but not this series. Okay.
Oh, that's great.
That's the feet.
So is that all clay, or are you
Yeah,
combining?
no, it's all clay.
All clay.
Supported, so I did the head and the feet, rolled the clay out, put a balloon in, wrapped that over. After it got stiff, popped the balloon. We're done. So anything to figure out how to have a support system that you can get out.
And then those are lusters on the.
Pardon me?
Those are lusters you used on the shiny.
Yeah, the shiny part is a platinum luster. So you have to put a, probably everybody knows you put a shiny glaze on it and then luster over that fire. So. Another one.
No, that's in here.
Okay. That's a top view. So, right. Oh, this is my little baby. This, I got first place in the art and cone box
Oh,
show.
so it's very small.
It's this big.
Oh,
Because they had to fit into a cone box.
right.
Oh.
So the other was at the time when I saw this show come up, I said, "Oh, that'd be so cool, make something in a box like that." I was looking up at that first place and then traveling around.
That's something. It's even more powerful because it's little.
This was another containment kind of series. You can see this head kind of being wrapped around with this thing. Go to the next one. It comes apart.
Oh,
And each one is more pressure on the next one down. So the bottom one is really squished, and it's not so squished. So it's like you took 5 people's heads and went like that with them. So of course you wouldn't know it until you take it apart. But
Yep.
right, right.
meant to be seen in the series. So I did a whole lot of bodies in clay boxes. This is, I don't know, there's a show somewhere. But I like the impact of these things. Now they're all over everywhere. They're in people's yards. They've got them hung up in my yard, different places.
How big are they? Are they like?
They're that size.
Are they sitting or mounted on?
These are mounted on the wall. They could sit. I didn't make a huge one out of a wooden box with a clay body in it. The guy just sent me a picture. But he found this in his aunt's house and he found my name on it. I don't know about it. But no, these are extruded sides. So I use extruder a lot for these things. And then the bodies, these are a lot of mold. Just pack the stuff in, put the sides on, knock them out. And the firing, these are all high fired with, I think it's just basically the clay body. I don't think I put much on there. Okay. These are early on too. These are, again, before I started this story, there was something about babies that I did a whole baby thing when I was 22 when I had a kid, and I was going through grad school at that time, and it was like,
Oh no.
it was like, oh man. So I did a lot of baby parts being put together and things.
Did you use your baby as,
Pardon me?
did you use your baby and cast on your baby?
Now I might try it.
Right.
And these are bigger ones. These are about this size. This was out of my graduate show. A lot of lusters. It's kind of a black rubber coating on the clay. Guys that light up. And that's the male. Next one. That's still the male. Next one. That's the female. So they were a set.
With electrical lighting in it?
Oh,
But, these were battery powered. It started getting into LEDs before there were LEDs. You know, you still had to buy the little LED and then you had to figure out how to put it all together. Now you just go to IKEA and buy a lamp, take it apart, and get all the parts there. So I started early, but I liked, again, this energy coming out of things. This is part of my grad show. I didn't think I was going to get a job. I thought I was going to go work for the movie industry. I wanted to be a model maker, set designer. So my whole show was about this weird sci-fi, you know, I wanted to do Frankenstein things. Machines that lit up and flashed and all that kind of thing. So this was kind of my introduction to that approach. Next. It's in front. This is another one out of the show. This thing lit up at the top. The lights would alternate. And that's me in the box. And then it's backwards, but it's. The whole idea would be there would be a bunch of these and you would pick them out and then plug them in and they would do different things. So that's the numbers. You can go down. I like these kinds of things. Okay, so the next. This is this big, huge box, aluminum, sandblasted. These lights will flash. I got a quarter slot. So to me, this was kind of about all this fancy stuff on the outside, but you put your money in, you don't get anything.
Right.
Nothing happens. It's about this seduction of servants and energy. This is a selective reading group. Let's go to the next one. This was the male. would plug into the female, and it was an actual plug. Once you plugged it in, the lights, the eyes would light up. You knew something was happening. They have numbers on the side, so you could go down your list and you go, I want these traits, just like you can do now,
Right,
but not like this.
right.
The guy is in the chemistry lab doing it. But I had that idea that you would have all these males and all these females, and when the time come, you can find that one and plug it into that one, and you would make whatever you wanted. So we go back to that. So those are LED lights that would come on once you plug them in.
Does it give you, what kind of eye colors you want?
Well, there's red and yellow, I guess it was. Right. These would be hanging cocoons.
Those are with faces on them?
Yeah, those are faces on there. That's the only shot I had. Those are really good. I had to cover that.
With lighting? Is that lights?
No,
No.
it's just the way it looked. A couple of men in my place have got one hanging. So kids come out and they go, what's that? So I have a body these things all over the yard, on the building, for people to discover. So, okay. It's another version. Using tubes about like that size. Again, the heads, I think they're all me, but they're all distorted, they're all packed in. So I don't like the face, especially now, to look like. You know, it's a representation of a person. I want it to be a caricature of a person. So you can't go, I know that person. You can go, that feels like somebody I know. So I like that difference. That's the evolution of the figure for me, is to not be in your face with what you're looking at, but give you a feeling about what you're looking at.
This is still about your sense of containment.
Oh, yeah, everything you see pretty much is about, there's either some kind of energy in there that started with the bodies, but it's still, the other pieces, there's still this containment of energy. Okay. So these were, like this side, these were meant to be up and down because there's alternating head and feet. So some are coming, some are going.
When was this made? I think I've seen it.
This was probably, there was a in Sika, what that is, a big national show.
Yeah,
This was, I think, here. I was in the
80s.
show.
In the 80s.
And yeah, mid-70s.
I think
Late 70s,
late
early
70s.
Okay, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I had this, and there's the next one too. That's the one. This is my favorite. This was the one out of everything this series that it worked for me. Every way I wanted it to work. There was enough of these. There's 7 different faces in there. But the way they're fired, I controlled. It's a modified raccoon pit firing. And heat them up, pull them out, and put the sawdust. Watch it, put more or less, and I could control the black and the white. And being black and white, it's hard to see here, but this was Judgment, was the name of this one. So this to me, when you go on, this is what you're gonna face. In reality, how I feel at that point.
Yeah.
So you're coming before these energy things that are looking at you. None of them real pleasant. But these evolved. I don't know. I sold these at the Renaissance Festival. Well, I can talk about that. I first had them out there. I wasn't selling the first year. People would come in and go, God, those are ugly. Or, somebody out of the group would like them, then nobody would buy. So, oh man, I gotta figure something out. And I read the history of some tribe. I wanted to be an anthropologist. I wasn't going to be an art. I like studying people. I read about a tribe that when their people died, they would put them in a box underneath their bed. And that was their protector. So I love that story. So I wrote up a whole thing on a card you would get about how these were protectors for your home. And it protects you. If you have a big home, you need two.
You have a lot of money, you need 5.
And you're supposed to either put them at an entrance or your front door or your back door. And they were activated when you named them. And
Did you sell them separately?
yeah, well, I sold one or rig for 2, but I sold a lot.
You have them at your house about to go out.
So, yeah, they would, I have people come from all over the, I've seen one in these people's homes. So it's like, yeah, I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
Boy, you had a good story.
And that's what I learned. I learned about how to sell, which we'll talk about in here. And you figure out why a piece of sculpture sells, which has no function other than mental. That's how you figure out how to sell. How do they do that? What makes that work? How does somebody ever buy a piece of sculpture? Well, they can if it says something to them. And for me, if you combine that with a utilitarian object, you got the best of both worlds. So I've always pushed, especially my last 15 years of furniture, that you're not just making a table, you're making a sculpture. That's a table. And that sculpture means you're going to have to be able to talk about it. If you want to sell it, you're going to have to explain where it came from, what was going on in your head, all that kind of stuff. So if you've been had stuff in a gallery, you can't just stand next to your piece and someone says really nice, says, yeah, I like cups. That's not going to do it. But if you go, no, this is about, this is about holding and lifting, or this is, see the decoration on here. This is what's interested in this kind of thing. So if you develop a story, or if you were, lucky enough to be interviewed, lucky enough to have been on HGTV twice, and you have to be able to explain what you're doing. And I was lucky enough to spend 30 years teaching, so I had a pretty idea how to talk about my work. But you don't want to be in a situation where you can't talk about your work to somebody, but you got to have something to talk about. So it could be very simple, but still there's something in here that you have to be able to explain to somebody else. So we worked on that all the time. Anytime we had a critique, you had to stand up and talk about what your intent was, and I know how to talk about your work. If your intent was working on handles, great, we can talk about that. If your intent was, it's about the interior versus the exterior, that when you fill up the cup, you drink, it changes. So there's a number of potters I know that have worked with that theory of volume change. Remember, maybe this guy was making these cups with this funnel shape on the side. Well, you drink and it go down to here, then it would never empty. You just keep drinking. And I like that. It's like those travel mugs. The first sip are down here, and the last one, geez, I've been drinking forever. Anyway, let's go to the next one. These are one of my students early on in the 70s discovered this method of making foaming clay. So they made lightweight blocks for building. mixture of acids and bases, clay, plaster, which I was always, oh, you can't put plaster in this. You can put all the plaster you want in clay. You just can't put chunks of plaster in your clay. As long as it's evenly distributed. These things, you know, about that thick. That one was about this size. So I'd make a mold. This one is me. Wooden frame, plastic, that thin cleaners bag, plastic. I'd fill it half full of plaster, and I would press into that. So all these lines, these stretch marks are the plastic. So this was man coming from the primordial ooze, this immersion out of this block. So I did a bunch of these things. Next one. That's arms. Arms across like this, just laid into the thing. And these are fired. First they're kind of disc fired. Then I coated them with roofing tar, thin stuff. I took a torch and burned it off. So the more I burned, more lighter areas, but the fire never got into the cracks. So you always, it's like wiping, you know, texture. I was doing it with a torch and tar. It was perfect for what I wanted feeling to be. All right. That's another view. It might be close. That's a close-up. That one's about that size. But I like these pieces. They just were a little fragile. They lasted for a few years. I've got one in my house still this big. You couldn't crumble them with your hands, but you could take some and gouge them out pretty easily. All right.
I think that's the last one, yeah.
Turn it off. Turn the light back on.
Get it.
Starting with everybody, I didn't have enough handouts. If you can share a handout, that'd be great. I thought there were only 12 people on this. So, I have these. These are thoughts over the years. Teaching a class in, the first class was called Radical Approach to Functional Design. So it's where there's people like people from the industrial design department, clay. This is still just getting out of clay. Just starting this interdisciplinary program. This was the impetus for me to start it.
That's, yeah, you can
I saw
turn it off.
students come in and they wanted
Takes a minute
this
for it
kind
to
of
go
thing,
down, but
but
I think I turned it on.
not
It's just,
tied into a material, but they wanted to be tied into
Yeah.
thoughts.
I did that. Yeah, it'll go off. It takes a minute for it to.
So, where was I?
I'll do this part maybe.
So the evolution was the starting point, and I've taught this class probably from at least the last 30 years. Every semester, a class. First class was all about this. The second semester was about putting this stuff to work.
What was the name of the class again?
The first one was called Radical Approach to Functional Design. Then it changed every year.
Yeah.
But being school, they didn't want to see the same class all the time. But I didn't want to see the same class. So I would take whatever happened in that class and adjust it slightly to the next one. But then teaching became fun again. Because for me, love teaching. I love the interaction. Just providing technical information is okay, but after a while, I mean, you figure out how to do that. So the next step after that is how to provide technical information that goes in a specific direction. So if you have an idea, my job
Sorry.
is help you figure out how to do that. So I've taught clay. In the clay, I taught wheel work, hand building, kiln construction, studio design. The only thing I didn't teach is glazing. That's like chemistry to me. I didn't understand chemistry. My best classes in high school were physics and geometry. I've used those for the rest of my life. Chemistry, I leave to somebody else to help me figure out. Although the foam clay was chemistry, but it's like somebody telling me what to do. So I've built every kind of kiln. I've built wheels. So I have an expansive history in clay. So that's the part that I wanted for people that are clay people to understand why I'm sitting here. That if you look at my website, you won't see any clay. You go, that guy teaches us glass stuff. Why is he here? What's he doing? But it all is kind of the same evolution for me. Oh, so I handed these out. Is there any starting point that anybody would like to?
Number 6. Intuition is used until you don't know how to make something better. Then you need comprehension of your intent to improve your work. So I'm trying to figure out, how should I interpret this?
Okay.
Oh wait, it won't go up. Just a second. I go in the back.
Yeah. Muscle it.
Do you need help?
It will move, but
Yeah, it just needs. You need to do it manually.
okay. Then
Oh, Mary.
I need to use the whiteboard.
No, I think you
Yeah,
press
go
this.
that way.
There, yeah.
Screen chair.
Screen.
Maxwell, we got you the whiteboard.
Yeah, I see this. This is wonderful. I don't know how people teach without a whiteboard or something to draw on.
These are the markers that will be interpreted as. I think the markers are. Oh,
It's there.
This is also in your okay, so these for me are the basic parts of
Stay.
the basic parts of analyzing what you're doing, what you're looking at. This is what I use if I do a critique. You say, first I ask, what are you trying to do? So I give you pertinent information. But if you're trying to figure out how to do what you do better, and you have a particular point of view, we break it down into these parts. So that means I'm not relying on just stuff in the air. I can actually look at a piece and I can go, what's the form? And form, also in here, form has a connotation. Like this form feels about volume. This form feels about energy out. This form feels about containment. So how you look at that form, you say, I'm trying to make a picture. And I want people to go, man, I want to pick that up and boy, it looks like I could really use it. So what do I do with that? Do I make a form that has white bottom, like that? Or do I make the form that has a narrow bottom and a rounded top? Well, form would say, this is not easily going out. This is what goes out. So your form change, which we all learn by looking at bodies. So if you don't know about form, try to imagine what a person would look like if they were trying to get across that feeling. This feels this way, this feels this way, this feels this way, but if I rotate like this, it's a different attitude. So I can take the same form and how it's presented can change the attitude. So form is always the first thing we look at. It's like, what is the feeling of this? Is the feeling the difference between these two things versus this? All three hold liquid, but even the lids tell you something. So next would be color, which those of you who deal with glaze know that color has an emotional, if you look at color theory, it says blues mean this, yellows this. Well, that's all true except for how they're presented. There's a basis to it that's normally correct, but everything could be altered by its composition with something else. Texture we know about because we handle things. So the texture on something is the interaction, and I can change your attitude. You can look at it and feel one way, but when you pick it up, you feel another way. So I can use that to my advantage, or it can be against me if I don't know what I'm doing. Pattern is more surface, or if you're doing multiples. Like the ones that I had that were the head and the feet coming up, that was pattern. I did one presentation of that piece where only one, this was a wall one, where I hung. I have one, all heads except for one that's a foot, the feet. It's the shy guy. So when you look, you see it, oh, I understand, wait, what's that? So pattern could be used in multiples or as surface. How do you use pattern? Void is, for two-dimensional people, it's negative space. It's, this is a void, that's a void. This is a void, that's a void. The area underneath is a void. So void for me is the most important out of all these parts. If you're a musician, it's the void that makes music. If they played all the notes at the same time, it's noise. If I'm looking at something and everything is screaming at me, all the same energy, it's noise, it's visual noise. So how you use void, void is really important. Composition is putting all these things together. So when I look at a piece, I can go form, I can go color, texture of that, texture of this. They're all three different textures. pattern would be the pattern. This is a pattern. This is a pattern. These are patterns. So how I play with that pattern can be used. So your question was, how do you get from intuition to comprehension? By going down this list. It will break what you're looking at up into the parts, and then you can figure out, doesn't feel quite right, I don't know what to do. You go down the list. Oh, that color isn't quite right for the rest of the piece. Or the pattern isn't quite right. So this is the easiest way to break up intuitive approach to comprehending the piece. So that's also in here somewhere, but that was a long explanation. Next, anybody else with it?
Well, I'm interested in this one. When you have many ideas, make one piece for each idea.
Absolutely.
Not many ideas in one piece.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to
Because
encompass the complexity of what you're...
that's still one idea. Complexity doesn't mean you can be complex with an idea, but you can't put 20 different ideas into a piece, which I see people for furniture, for jewelry, anything that takes time to make. People only make a few pieces a semester and they're excited about what they're doing, and they get this idea, I'm just going to cram everything into this piece because I want to. Ideas are important, and I only have time to make one piece. So it's something that I find prevalent for people who are conceptual. If you don't have an idea, you just make a piece. But if you have, really, I saw this and I saw this and I feel this. I'm so excited about getting this into something so somebody can get that. Well, it's better to pick one idea or feeling or concept, whatever it is, and make that the main focus of the piece. How it's presented is also in here, that some people are novelists, write a bunch to get your idea across. Some people are poets. You spend all your time figuring out the few words. Because that's much harder to do. You can just throw word salad at stuff and people will, if you're not a good novelist. If you read, more than 20 pages, usually you're taken on a journey. If you read a poem that's got, haiku, you're taken on a journey, but there's only a few words there. So they have to be absolutely correct. Then there's people who write manuals. All of them are correct. I'm not saying one's more important than, if I get something from IKEA, that better be a good manual, because if I get confusing, I know it's not going to be very good. So there's value in all those approaches, but you have to figure out more what you are or more what you want to be. If you're a novelist, which is pretty much probably maybe how I started out, then I tried little by little over the years to get much simpler. Right now my last pieces are, I want to bring you in, but I don't want you to know what's going on till at the end. I want the mystery there. I want to suck you in. Like, I don't really care if you like my work, but I don't want you to walk past it. As a lot of people don't like what I do, basically because it's figurative. I don't understand, but
Is your glassware figurative as well?
oh yeah.
Is it?
And there's furniture. If you go to the website maxwelldavis.com, you'll see furniture and figure.
Okay.
The the figure is all the glass castings and photography. So both of those figure, they're all abstractions. So I don't think there's faces in. It might be, that might have one photograph that's a picture down, but you can't tell who it is. I don't want you to associate anything I do figurative with an individual. It needs to be about the body, our perceptions of the body. And that's where some people are, you know, there's nothing overt in it. There's, you know, but some people don't, like, you know, especially if I have males in the parts, that they really don't know how to handle that part. We're used to seeing females, but we're not used to seeing a male. What else? Anybody?
You say for work to evolve, projects should be made as fast as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what I got from Clay. That the more you work, the more you learn, and also allows you to make mistakes. Those two things go hand in hand. The best thing I found from Clay for me was being able to make mistakes, because it allowed me to get better. Because I go, oh, can't do that again, or I gotta watch it at this point. But that also carried through for everything else. I mean, I felt pretty confident in my teaching because I've made so many mistakes that I can talk to somebody and go, think about that. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but these are, why are you going to do that? So the question for me always was, what's going on? Why are you doing that? Not what are you, not, don't do it. But comprehend your actions and try to figure that out a little bit before. If not, you're going to figure it out because it didn't work. So making a lot of work allows you to evolve the work. So I do 20 pieces. I would normally, even in the furniture and the tables I made, because I made jigs, I could make a piece in 2 days. So I can make a lot of work. And each one, I watch what happens in this one, and I go, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm going to make that and have it more in this one. So you get to see an evolution of your work. Like if you're sitting down at the wheel, you know, you're going to make cups today. The first, for me, when you start off, just throw. You know, throw off the hook, just see what happens. Be that Zen, you know, potter who just makes 50, 500 tea bowls and goes, that one's worth $1,000, that one's worth $3,000, the rest are $5. And that's the way it is, because they see through just interacting with the clay. If you're lucky enough to do that, where every once in a while it's just like, that's it, I just connected this time. The other ones are a struggle. Or you go, but
Particularly
sometimes,
if you're trying to make a set of something. I always find my first one is much better than my 10th one.
well, I'd say being somebody that can make a set, I would never make a set that's the same. If you come to my house, well, I'm lucky enough I have the place settings from Mr. Vardell. All the plates are square. They all have the same glaze on them, but the thick pattern from slit is different for every one. The cups I have are the same thing. If you come to my house and you want a cup of coffee, or you want a glass of wine, you're going to know which glass is yours, because that's the one that isn't like everybody else's. So the set, to me, is there's a relationship, but they're not the same.
They don't have to be identical.
No, because I think you would sell more if they weren't, because then everybody thinks, well, that one would be for this person, that one when they came, especially if there's just two people. this is yours, this is mine, this is for you, this for me, you know, I have a story. So you want them to look like a family,
Sure.
but you want a brother and a sister and an uncle and a dad and a mom, and, you know, so I like that approach, making a family of things, and that's an assignment I give quite a bit when we're making multiples. Give me the family approach. Show me which one is your brother, or your sister, or your mom. What would be the difference? Because you're all kind of the same, but one might be a little bigger, a little taller, a little wider, easier to handle, hard to pick up. You know, so that's the mental part of approaching a group of objects that you want to sell as a unit. And like I say, that takes it from being just this, you know, you go to Target and you buy, you know, a set of dishes. Well, you know, there's a lot of good dishes out there. But if you want to sell yours, give them something. Give them a reason to buy what you're doing. I have a part in here somewhere about learn how to sell what you make. Don't just make stuff to sell.
Ooh, I love that. Say that again.
Really? It's the last one.
Yeah, I think it's the
It's number
Oh, it's on
26.
there. I didn't
Yeah.
get it.
It's the last one.
Because that's,
I love that.
again, having taught for so long that people get into, you know, it's Christmas time, you know, the glass people were the worst. You know, they would be making pumpkins. You know, it's like, you spend this amount of money to make a pumpkin, and they were all ugly, and I could buy them at the dollar store.
That's true.
Yeah, or they make, you know, just, you know, it's like Christmas and holiday. It was just a terror. And the clay people were better, but not a lot better. You know, glass people were happy because you could sell anything out of glass. You could drop it on the floor and it's $20. So that is the advantage to glass. It was the advantage for me that I was in a realm where my prices could go a whole lot higher than it would have been if they were wood. You make a wood table, like make a glass table. Well, some wood tables are really expensive because they actually put the work into it.
Yeah.
But a lot of, you know, but a lot of glass tables, you know, it's like, oh, let's just get an engine and put a piece of glass on it. Oh, that's my cool table. No, that's the starting point. I have to break people up. You know, so, oh, we got glass. Oh, I got some tires. That'd be great. You go, no, get out. And a lot of people who work in furniture are kind of that way. It's like they have a nice, you know, those live edge stuff, and they just stick a metal frame underneath it.
Yep.
I mean, where's your brain? Anybody can do that. You just bought this piece, you put a finish on it, you can buy the frame you can stick it on, and you want money for that? When, if you actually had some consciousness, you could make the frame actually have something to do with the top, so it becomes a piece, as opposed to these two parts.
So you don't object to mixed media,
Oh, no.
you just like them to do something with it.
Again, that's composition. That's making sure all the parts go in the same direction. And my glass pieces started, first ones was like big chunks of burned wood and I-beams that I found on the river in Detroit, and I found broken glass parts, and I put all that together into this hellscape of table. Because of, you know, beams, huge beams that were burned.
Probably carcinogenic too.
Yeah. But so it started that of putting these parts together and then fine tuning, and I kept the broken part and evolved into, I did some all glass pieces, hot glass legs, 3/4 inch tops. Then I didn't have any money, but I had a friend in the scrap metal business, so I bought all these plumbing, 2-inch plumbing, copper pipes, and I soldered those together, and then patinaed those, and went from there, and then went to steel, and then finally got enough money to go to stainless. which is the best for me because it was, again, the connotation of metal and glass I use. The connotation of the stainless is hard and sharp and clean and tight. But the connotation of glass, the generic connotation of glass is hard, sharp, dangerous. Well, I kept that for the top, but the bottom legs were all blown, were all hot worked. So they were soft and sensuous and seductive and had all this wonderful attraction. So I played with those different parts, but they all was about the idea of, sex and violence.
Oh.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So those two things fit together for me, using the materials. Another one?
I'd like to hear you say more about number 11. Take chances to broaden personal experiences. They are the basis of your design intuition.
That's why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best thing about this, is that you have actually put yourself out. You're not in school, I don't think. Maybe somebody is still in school, but you have to be willing to broaden what you know. It's like for this workshop I gave an assignment to go out and take photographs of interesting compositions. What that does is make you aware of your surroundings. I used to have people say, next week drive to school in a different way. Do something that breaks your routine, because your routine is mindless. Mm-hmm. And you can't be creative when you're mindless. You're limited to what you already have absorbed. So sometimes you don't have to break the boundaries, but you gotta at least bend them. And I loved assignments where they gave me black and white, but my job was to figure out how to go like that with that assignment. I still could talk about being within that realm, but I pushed the boundaries, because that's the only, that's what's fun. How to figure out how to do what you're supposed to do, but do it in a more interesting way. Sometimes I had to argue about things. So I had to run in with a couple of instructors when I was in grad school, because you're always fully yourself when you're in grad school. So, but I said, here's the assignment. Show me where I didn't do the assignment. They couldn't do it. But that's, travel. A lot of people talk to me. Anytime you get, when I first came to Ann Arbor, and I grew up Southern Illinois, it's all the same people crammed into a place. I started going to school, I go, wow, there's people here I don't know about. I came to Ann Arbor, and I could walk down the street and I hear 20 languages when I used to go downtown, and we had all the restaurants, and you'd sit outside, and I go, this is amazing. Then I had people in classes that had, every persuasion you could think of. So everything advanced my understanding of the world and the people. The people were most interesting. I had my first openly trans person my last year. I'd had some in class before, but not, face to face going, my name is Eric. No, my name is Shirley. I go, okay. Students had no problem, which was the best thing. They didn't make any difference to them at all. But for me, it was like, it took a couple of classes to kind of figure out how do and I've never had to openly deal with this. I've had gay roommates, and the whole gay thing was, being in the art school was the best, because nobody cared. It was the one area you were safe, pretty much, no matter who you were, what you looked like, nobody, you only cared about what you made. That's the best thing about any of the creative fields. It's, if you're a musician, nobody cares what you look like. Does it sound good? If you're a maker, it's like, what do you make? That sucks. That's great. That's my decision about you. You know, I can say you're really a nice person, but you need to find something else to do.
Did you really ever say that to a student?
Oh yeah.
You did?
Oh,
I think that's
absolutely.
really great. Yeah.
Because they pay a lot of money. They don't, you know. You try. That's like a last ditch when you've tried everything. Because I think everybody, if they're willing to work, you could take them somewhere. You know it. You know. It took me 2.5 years to go from this person to evolving out of that, but I had help. So my job being in that situation was to take wherever you were at that point. I had people come in and never had any experience in building anything at all. They go, okay, well, let's go down to the wood shop or the metal shop. No, I taught wood shop, I taught metal shop. So we can go down, I'll teach you how to weld. This is rocket science. It's practice. Here's the basics. You go to Washington, you take one of the best welding schools in the country. They sit you in a cubicle. They show you how to do it. They come back every 15 minutes and look. All you're doing is going. So the whole idea is to take where you are, and if you're willing, that you can get better and advance yourself to where you're actually having a good time. So that's what I find to be important for the few people that are willing, you know, probably to have a workshop, for the few people who are interested in taking a chance to go into a realm they haven't been before. It's scary. It's like, I don't know, I'm older and I don't want anybody to look at me like I'm doing something wrong. Take a chance, who cares? There's no right or wrong about anything you do. You know, go try to make something you haven't done before. You know, if you've only done wheel work, do some hand building and wheel work. Do something you haven't done before. You can do the stuff you do, but take part of that time to go out and be in a place where it doesn't work, so what? You got to be able to give that up. I mean, that's the advantage of being in school, that you get forced to do that. When you're not in school, like a couple of classes that I've taught, I taught here and I taught at Kay's place. It's like, some people just want to do what they want to do, great. But there's few people who go, I want more. I want to get, you know, it's not, you know, I'm happy with what I'm doing, but how do I get more happy? How do I get to where I'm really excited about what I'm doing? And that's a hard thing to do, because you have to go back and go, it may not work. I don't have a lot of time. So what am I going to do? But this workshop is full, but if I get enough people, I'll do another one. But as soon as, I mean, I only have, out of the 12, there's 6, maybe 7 clay people. Because once I put the word out, I mean, I had people coming from all over going, I want this. You know, I have people who are photography people. I have a person who does woodwork. 2 people do woodwork. Another person does wood finishing. So I got 2 people. I don't even know what they do. I don't really care. It's that they're interested in doing something they haven't done before. And even in the school, I was the only one teaching this as a class. You got it kind of individually, but I don't know. I want, for my people, this is how we're going to advance. So I have all these techniques that we use to make not just learning a technique, but what to do with the technique that has something to do with you. What else?
16 and 19 both talk about abstraction. I'm wondering if you could expand on
Let's see, where are we? Okay, a lot of people talk about this word abstraction. Oh, that's an abstract whatever. And it really isn't. Because an abstraction in real language means here's this, and it's changed a little. It still has a relationship with the first part. So it's being abstracted in order to convey something about that piece. So it's an abstract figurative painting. It's still supposed to be the figure in there somewhere. But it's an approach to how this person sees the figure or wants you to see the figure. So an abstraction is how you learn to start off. There's also something in here, if you don't know what to do, imitate, then abstract or evolve. So the first one, I try to make that, it's like when I'm learning how to throw it. I made pieces that my instructor were making. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know about the sign. I just knew how to go like this up and down on a wheel. So what do you do with that? So the first thing is I started making things that kind of looked like his work, but I could never do it like he did. So they were already being abstracted because of my either lack of ability, which probably is positive at that point, or just seeing something happen in the making, which is the other great thing about making with clay, because you're making this, you think, and something happens, you go, oh, I didn't expect that. That's really awful. That's really, that's interesting. I'm gonna remember that part. So, let's see what else we said. Oh, vocabulary's same. Previous creative experiences. That's when we talked about broadening your experiences, but your intuition comes from all that. Your intuition comes from how you're raised, your family, your environment. Throughout your whole existence, you've experienced all these different things, different interests. It's lucky if you get older, you already start going, I really like travel. I like travel to these kinds of places. I like travel, but I don't like to go to places where there's a lot of tourists. It's like, well, I might as well watch it on TV, because I'm looking at everybody who looks like me, kind of. But I like to go to places where there are very few tourists. It's still accommodating, but I find I get to know the culture, I get to know the people. They're more interested in having a conversation. I'm not just some guy that's got money that's going to give them some money to give me a place to live or eat. So that influences me. So any experience that you have is already in here. So I say when I went back to being a 4-year-old, that experience stayed in there, and it was underneath everything, except for I couldn't get in a sleeping bag. I couldn't have the sheets on the bed. I had to kick them up. So there was something in there. But when I started working, that intuition led me in that direction, and then it became conscious. So it always evolves from your intuition to your consciousness, hopefully. Is there more to?
I'd love to hear you talk about number 9, the symmetrical versus asymmetry, especially like
asymmetry that works versus asymmetry that just looks
Well,
like a
there's
beginner.
yeah, the problem with the wheel for people starting off is that in order to be correct on the wheel, it's symmetrical. So you learn to be symmetrical. Now, after 15, 20 years of doing that, you may go, I gotta, I can do this. And I'm starting to be bored, so now what can I do? And I take the pot and I go, bleh. Oh, look at that. For me, it's, I can't get to it. My pieces always have energy coming out from the inside. It may be symmetrical, but it's asymmetrical in the detail, so it's approximate symmetry. I like that area to start. Symmetrical is boring because it's understandable in the first second you look at it. If I do this right now, I have to drink the rest.
That's a nice piece. Bottom is nice.
So these are 2 cups. Just have left in here. This is not symmetrical. Unless I go like that. This is not symmetrical either, but it's got a handle on it. This is one I did because that's how I work. That this is also about juxtaposition. That this is an unexpected part of this. That's juxtaposition. When you bring in 2 parts where one isn't normally associated with the other. It's what pattern that's used a lot. But I also could say that the color and painting on here is not symmetrical. It's juxtaposed to this form. I love this cup.
It's beautiful.
Because I would never do it. But it has one thing that I do, which somebody went in and put these lines on the inside. So I go, I can relate to that. So it isn't just another cup. I found a relationship with it because of what's in me is in here, but in such a way that I could never do it. So now I have new experience. I go, wow, because mostly I don't like painting that much. You have to be a really good painter. And if you're doing it on clay, that's a whole nother. Is it a decoration? Or what I love is that these are not in the center. Now it ruined it for me. So everything about this cup, I don't do glazing like this, but the way they put the glaze on, I have a relationship to. I love the bottom.
I love the bottom.
Because I throw off the hump for small pieces. But this one's extraordinary because they used a coarse one and they left it. It's smooth, it's been polished. But this tells me where it came from, the process. So another relationship of my experience. And I do use this, but I tend to smooth it over. I love this. I love the inside versus the outside. So if we're all done, you have to come and take a look at the inside and find a relationship. So this is like, I'm sold on this because I relate to it, but it's not me. But it's a new expression of my feelings. So now I've been brought, I go, wow, you know, it's like, I can't do that. But I see me in there somewhere.
I just wondered, does the gun go through to the inside of the cup or does it end?
Oh, yeah.
So I
Scary.
did a couple of these, so they didn't last too long. Students would grab hold of them, they broke this off, they broke the fingers off, and they go, oh man. So these are my Detroit. This is my
Is
Detroit.
this the Detroit series?
Souvenir model.
Detroit Super.
So I have this and I have some with knives in them, and it's all this violence versus this perfection of form. You know, it's like that feeling to me. So a lot of my work is about violence and beauty. Those two things being put together in the same place. Some glass pieces I use, some of the earlier ones had bullet holes in them, but they were organized in such a way that they were perfectly spaced, and the energy of a bullet is beautiful in a piece of glass. It's like at first, when I lived downtown Detroit, there was a place that I could eat, a restaurant, a little bitty place. There was only the old people and the prostitutes and me. And it was cheap food, Hungarian kind of place, really good, you know, for a couple of bucks. But there was like 2 tables on the window side, and when I was lucky enough to get to sit at one of those, it was really nice because you could see outside and see. One day I walked in, I sat down there, and there was a bullet hole in the glass right there. And I go, if I had been sitting here, this would have been. But it took me to a place of violence. But I said, that's so cool. The beauty of this energy busting through this glass is just tremendous. So I had to make pieces out of it. I made these big hanging panels of glass with bullet holes organized. You know, just use a BB gun, but you had to stay that far away. And I had to inscribe circles around and fracture those, because if you just hit the thin glass, it would fracture like that. But the
Circle was
broken
flat.
edge of this circle kept it from going out.
Oh.
So all these experiences that I have led to something. Having a baby led to something. Having, being, glass, you get cut all the time. So there's this, so broken edges became really, and I make these tables with these broken edges on them, and people would go, oh, look at that. And I go,
ouch.
What are you, nuts? But they would do it because you're attracted to that energy. This table contained energy, and it was so much you had to go touch the energy. You had to interact with it. So I polished all the edges so you wouldn't get cut, but not so much that it was all around you. So your just first instinct is go, stick your hand in the fire when you're a kid. It's beautiful. So the work has always been about this energy that attracts you, but is it out? Is it kind of coming out? Is it being contained? Is it housed completely in there? What? And what kind of energy is it? Is it good or bad? So limiting to contained energy, I have still 100 things I could do, because there's all these variations on energy and containment. So when I would do this with students, you'd have to write the word that you were going to try and convey in this piece, and then you had to define that word for that piece, because the first word is not defined enough, because when you go to start to work, you can do a million things. The next level is, well, I gotta get this, if it's confined energy, but there's a little bit has the capable of coming out, and it's not good. It's Pandora's box. Just crack the lid, I've seen it 1,000 times in movies. As soon as a little energy comes on, all of a sudden, you know, everybody's dead. So my experiences and seeing movies and anything that I've gone through that has that feeling in it somewhere is up here. Then I can use that in a piece. Your question?
Yeah, so can you go back to that, that idea of the student had to start with a word?
Yeah.
So can you give an example, kind of?
Oh, okay. I did an assignment where I said, we're going to make furniture, whatever that is. I don't know, you know, there were no boundaries. It might be sculpture that hangs on a wall that you could open up. That's furniture. I don't care. And we did a lot of lighting, you know, things. So I did an assignment that was sound. Furniture and sound. Oh, those don't go together. Yeah, they do. You know, then you go, what do I know about sound and furniture? You know, if you're old enough, you're at a rocking chair and you hear this rhythm comes from movement, from interaction. So if I said sound, then the next level might be human interaction to cause the sound. Not just this thing makes noise like a radio. And then that I would have to go, is that good or bad? I mean, it could be bad. If you hear something breaking, you know, you ever get the box and you go like that, and it's like, that would have been nice. Or it's the rhythm of the creaking, you know, it's like I have an outdoor rocking kind of chair thing, and man, you know, I'd like to do this. Just a and you just could go away. It's very meditative. So they had, I don't think I have it here. I have a particular way of sketching.
Oh, good idea.
This is the broad approach. So, I don't care, just design something. You know, what is it? You're gonna make a cabinet, and it's gonna make noise when you open the drawer. Give me 10 cabinets. So, okay. Then you would pick, I really like this cabinet, and I really like that cabinet. Okay, now we're gonna get into those cabinets and start doing, you know, what's the door look like? What's, you know, what's the shape? What's the size? What's whatever. Then you go down, you know, pick one of those and you go down to the next level. Now we're into the little detail. Without this, people tend to do a drawing and go make it. And then it's, you do all your modification while you're doing it. Well, in clay maybe, because you can make another one fast. And furniture, when you got you know, for them, if you got 3 weeks into it and it's not really working because you just had an idea and you just, you know, first you can't make the pieces because you gotta go get the parts, you gotta know what size they are, you gotta know the materials, you gotta know all that kind of stuff. So this became necessary for furniture. Now you could do this by sitting on a wheel or hand building. If you can work fast enough, you can do it automatic. But you have to be consciously not breaking that. I have to see that by the time I get down here. I don't want to see an evolution, which again, without doing this, I'd see they did 5 sketches. By the time they got to the 5th one, I couldn't find the first one anymore because their brain was, oh, this is so, oh, this is cool. I'm gonna go into there and do that. You go, no. If you're gonna get a job, you can't do that. If you're gonna work for somebody, they're gonna go, I want a lamp that's gonna look like this because this is my company and this is the kind of thing we make. And you're coming in with something that, oh, it's really cool, but we don't do that. So this was more for somebody who was going to go into business. Like if you're gonna do a lot of work, a lot of commission work. So this is a starting point. This is how I work with what they want. When I go down to the next, they take a look, we talk about it, go back in, do more. And then finally, I learned the hard way for making furniture that I had to give them a full size, like for tables, they had to have a full size top of the table. And they'd already picked out the legs and that kind of thing. Because more than once, when I first started out, I didn't think it was going to be that small, or I didn't think it was going to be that big. Well, I said 3 foot by 4 foot. I don't know. Because people don't understand measurements.
Do you just do that in like cardboard or something?
Yeah, well, that or paper I could fold up. It depends on a lot of stuff. I ended up, I had, you know, had galleries around the country, but I'd end up delivering stuff to Detroit. People would buy there and not buy here because I was an Aspen. Oh, I found this cool thing this guy made. Well, it's me, and I delivered it out in Bloomfield Hill somewhere. So that happened quite a bit. So I could take, if they're close enough, I bring them to the shop. If they're not, I send them at least something, and they have to sign it and send it back. So there's a lot of things you learn through experience. You know, I got lots of stories about interior designers. So if you're ever going to work for one, come talk to me first.
I was gonna say, I'm in home remodeling, full disclosure. I'm not a designer, but what we have to do is completely model the design. We have a computer program where it's 3D and people can spin around and move in, and we have to put people in it that are their height so they can get a feel for everything.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. I mean, I'm a 3-dimensional person. I understand when somebody can describe something, what it, you know, or I know how to go and build that. A lot of people who have never built, never made anything 3-dimensional, do not understand dimension or space or, you know, well, we're going to put that in here, and you go, or that's going to be a coffee table for, you know, what size your couch? And how tall do you want it?
Yeah.
So there's all the technical things that, and clay is not quite so important, but selling is another part of it. That if you're going to get in, and somebody commissions you to do a tableware, you better iron it down. You know, they got to buy it. You have to make it before, and then they have to come and buy it, because the other way around does not work very well. I thought it was a different color of purple.
Commissions.
All right, any others? Or if I
We
didn't-
should probably.
Pardon me?
I said we should probably end about now.
Okay,
And then
whatever.
let people individually continue the discussion, because I
As
know
long
some
as
people
you don't
have
any
to
specific questions,
leave.
I mean, all these things I can talk to you about. We had a lot of time, I'd go to write down the list, because they're all important, but,
I do have a question for you. I'm in your workshop, I think a few of us are, and I don't know where you live, so.
Oh.
oh, well, you know,
I don't know how to get
do
to
you
your.
have photos yet?
I've been taking them on my phone. Do you want
Yeah.
them sent to you, or?
No, we are going to meet when you let me know that you have something to look at.
Oh, I thought it was Wednesday, the 18th.
No, he's gonna meet with you beforehand,
Yeah, that's what
before the
photos are
workshop
all about.
starts,
It's the
Oh.
25th.
individually.
It's the
Okay.
it's the 25th.
Oh, it's the 25th.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you just have 10, 15 compositions, send me you have my email? Or my?
I have your, no, I have your text.
Okay, yeah, that's what, I don't email, I get,
Okay,
just,
so I'll text you.
yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll set up a meeting time.
Okay. Cool.
So next week, I have Tuesday and Wednesday already gone, but Monday and Thursday, Friday, on the weekends, I don't really care.
Okay.
So just send me that, we'll set up a time. If you haven't been to my house, I'll have you come there. If you have been, normally I go to your house and see what other stuff we've done, or
Okay.
either way, I'm happy to do either way.
Okay.
Okay, we'll come up and take a,
Who made that?
Thank you
I don't
very
know.
much.
If
I
anybody
love
knows,
it.
It looks awfully familiar, yeah.
It's really.
Thank
It
you.
is very nice on the inside.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it was just.
Oh, stop.